Hey guys, welcome in to another Commitment Impact video brought to you by Go Lopes Radio. Today we are talking about Kaleb Smith, GCU's newest addition via the portal, who comes to the Lopes after playing 2 years at UC Riverside. Okay, who is Kaleb Smith? So he is an incoming junior, and you're not going to believe it, guys, another guy from Southern California. He is the newest addition to the SoCal Lopes, if you will, and he played at Damien High School in Laverne, and he is a 6'8", 210-pound forward wing, kind of whatever you want to call him, sort of player. So I want to start out by saying all credit to him. He, after high school, was an unranked recruit. He makes his way to UC Riverside, still obviously big frame. UC Riverside, I'm sure, saw plenty of potential, even though he was unranked. And turns himself into a pretty good player. As a true freshman, he averaged 7.5 and 4.5 points and rebounds, obviously. Again, really impressive considering unranked player goes straight to being a true freshman, playing right away on his team. And then last season, he actually improves to 11 points and 4.5 boards. His splits, 36.5% from the field, 33 from three, and 76 from free throw. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about those splits. I'm sure there's been some red alert. Everyone's panicking seeing those splits. We're going to break that a little bit down and talk about that. So we talk about his game here. We're going to do two sections. We're going to do a positives and a negatives. He's been a really polarizing guy. So I'm going to just break this into two parts. So positives is the size. And again, this is super important as GCU heads into Mountain West play. It's not about just having size at the 5, right? You got to have a good big guy, no doubt about it, but you got to have size throughout your lineup, different options, different things you can do, and having a guy that can kind of play that 3 or 4 and be 6'8" and have the length that he has, Kaleb, we're talking about, is incredible. And again, I know GCU's kind of maybe still waiting on that true kind of 5 big guy, rim protector sort of player, hoping that comes soon, but adding length out on the wing, on the perimeter is massive. We talked about with Jaden Henley and how kind of beneficial that's going to be to the Lopes. And I think another guy here, 6'8" wing, he'll spend some time down low on the block. He can kind of be out on the perimeter. He's comfortable out there. But yeah, just a guy who brings a lot of size to the table. So first thing we want to talk about is the work on the block. Now, again, this is kind of a unique talent when you're a player on the perimeter who can go back to the basket and score. If you recall, Ray Harrison, GCU's point guard for the last 3 years, kind of point combo guard, being at 6'4" and how strong Ray was, anytime there was a great matchup, that was very advantageous to him. A smaller guy was guarding him. GCU sometimes wouldn't even run a play or a set or do anything. They just say, Ray, go to the block and take your time. We're going to get you settled. We'll move the ball around the perimeter, and then we'll get it into you, and you can just go. And whether that's, he loved his little fadeaway jumper, he kind of post up, whatever that looked like, it's kind of that informal basketball, and Kaleb Smith kind of brings that same thing to the table. If you're going to guard him with the smaller guy, he's going to get down to the block, he's going to post up, he's going to get position, going to get deep in the paint as far as he can. You can get him the ball, and he can score. And again, you could run plays, sets, whatever. That's more of a, hey, they're trying to guard Kaleb with a smaller guy. Just get him on the block, give him the ball. It's a great use of a possession. And so I love that ability for GCU to have that guy. I think at times, especially last year, the offense kind of hit and miss. They'd have great moments where it'd flow awesome. I think, Norfolk and a few of those whack games down the stretch. And then you see other times where it just was such a grind to even score. I think to have a guy that you can put down low, say, hey, we just want to get a shot close to the basket, back to the basket, give him the ball, have that ability to score, I think is super important. So really excited about that opportunity. And then obviously defensively. I mean, this is another guy, feels like a Bryce Drew created in the lab sort of guy, a 6'8", perimeter big guy who can be super disruptive, long arms, big size. And the other thing is he can rebound. And I think that's really big. We talked about potential for stretch lineups with Wilhelm Breitenbach, who's more of a 5 who stretches the floor. This is a guy who you can put out there and he can make up for some of that rebounding if Wilhelm's out there. Talk about that when it comes to the fit. But just for an idea, this is a guy, when you bring in, the length of the arms, 6'8", and can rebound, you just kind of fill a lot of gaps. And when you can do a lot of those things, some of the weaknesses we're going to talk about, they're a little less polarizing, and they don't stick out as much, right? So when you can do those little things like he does, it's super important, and he's not going to be lacking kind of in those sorts of little things, which I think is really important, because we're going to transition into the weaknesses. Obviously, the shooting, right? We've talked about it, I know, in the chat quite a bit. If you watch the highlight film, it's obviously him making jumpers, so you don't see the ones that he shot. 36 from the field is not good, totally get it. And 33 from three. 33 from three isn't awful. You'd love to not see him be a high volume guy, but hopefully he could get that up. But yeah, it's not the cleanest looking jumper, no way around it. Hasn't shot the three well, hasn't scored anywhere on the offensive end at any sort of an efficient level. And that's something you hope that he can improve, right? He can improve the jumper. Again, he's only going to be coming in as a junior, so there's time there. But there's no way around it, guys. He's not additive as a shooter, scorer, any sort of like an efficiency on the offensive standpoint. It's not there yet. We haven't seen it yet. I think there seems to be potential, but we'll kind of see with that. The next thing is the playmaking. He's not going to be a guy, who comes in and creates a ton of offense. Look at a guy like Tyon, who would come in and create offense with length. He could pass over guys. Jacoby, same thing. He's not super comfortable going off the bounce. One thing I do want to call out, when he does go off the bounce, it's usually baseline. He wants to spot up in that corner, and his drives are all going to be baseline. That seemed to be how he was scoring a lot when he was putting the ball on the floor. He does not want to dribble the ball in the middle of the floor. To me, that's really great self-awareness. We talked about Nana and how good he is with his self-awareness. And I think this is another guy who says, hey man, I'm not going to catch on the perimeter and dribble into the middle of the floor where all the help is. That could be really bad news. And so, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. He's not going to, make a ton of mistakes by dribbling into the middle of the floor, but he also can't create that offense. He wants to drive on the baseline when he does drive. So, again, not a massive playmaker, not a great shooter on the offensive end. So no way to sugarcoat that or, say it didn't happen, because that was kind of the reality, right? A little anemic on the offensive end. I think some potential there, but we'll see. So how does he fit in? Quick rant here. I know you see a very flawed college basketball player when you look at Kaleb Smith, and I think that's totally fine. Again, we just talked about the shooting and the offense, totally fair. But I want to kind of ground us just a little bit here in these conversations. So a few points. First, GCU is a mid-major. GCU is not a Power 4. Obviously, the Mountain West is a premier mid-major conference. GCU has made the tournament 3 of the last 4 years, all those things. GCU is not a Power 4 school, right? Cooper Flag, you name the rest of your names, they're not coming to GCU. That's fine. That's a reality. We're calling a spade a spade. Expecting these incredibly perfectly well-rounded high school recruits or transfer portal guys to come to GCU is just, that's not real, right? They're going to be flawed players. And this leads me to my second point. College basketball is a sport of flaws. It literally is. Every single player is, an 18 to 22-year-old. Unfortunately, now we've got some 24, 25, 26-year-olds that need to go get a job that are still playing college basketball. But they're, for the most part, 18 to 22-year-olds who are very flawed college basketball players, which is why they're in college and they're developing with hopes to go play professional in the NBA or overseas. So it's so much different than the NBA product. Even the very best college basketball players have some sort of flaws, so you have to keep that in mind. Last, and to me, this is kind of the most important point, coaching and fit is super important. And I'm not saying that Kaleb Smith, under great coaching and a great fit, is going to be a Mountain West first team sort of player. I'm not saying that. But a great staff, their job is to mix the drink well and make it work. And in fact, you could say GCU's had some pretty flawed players they've utilized in the past, and they've been able to win games. Now, not in the Mountain West, in the WAC, but they've been able to win and get to the tournament. Think of a guy like Ray Harrison. He was, before he came to GCU, he was literally an inefficient guard at a bottom 50 program. 6'4", really strong, really inefficient, high volume scoring guard at a bottom 50 college basketball program. Very flawed basketball player. You get him in a good system, a good culture, you get some pieces around him, you mix the drink well, a good staff. You know, you get a guy who was a really good player, right? You look at Duke Brennan, he's a young guy at ASU, essentially was doing nothing, right? As a big guy, he developed, he added so much in his game. We did a podcast in the middle of last season on what he improved and how much better he got. Now he's at Villanova getting paid a lot of money and going to be on a Big East team, which is super sick, right? So I say all that to say these flawed college basketball players come in, and I know as transfer portal, you have this idea they're going to be kind of finished products, need to be ready to go because we need to get this team, you know, ready to go right away. And it's a ton of new guys. That's just not really a reality. And so it's time for this staff to take in a guy who has clear deficiencies, clear things that you want to hide, things that you want to improve, and put him around other players. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Again, I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm just saying, you know, this program's done a good job developing guys, and you've got to hide flaws in college basketball players. And this is why you see not a lot of really good NBA players turn into coaches. This is their biggest problem. Patrick Ewing, Thunder Dan, you can go down the list, right? They just cannot fathom looking at an 18 to 22-year-old who can't shoot the corner three well, can't create and make the right pass, who can't close out on shooters the right way, who can't also rebound, who doesn't turn the ball over and shoots well from the free throw line, because they've done that. If you make it to the NBA, your flaws are just not there. You've done such a good job developing your game. The NBA, you will get exposed immediately. The second you get on the court, if you have a massive flaw. You just cannot have that. So these former NBA guys try to come into college and coach. They can't fathom why they can't build or they can't get a guy to do something, because they just don't have that talent. You have to mix the drink, get all the guys to play together well. Patrick Ewing, Thunder Dan, obviously, two of the kind of the bigger ones who've really struggled with that. And so I think readjusting kind of our mindset with a guy like Kaleb, I think is really, really important. I like this pickup. You need to fill out 15 players on a roster. Again, he was, you know, he played 26 minutes a game at a decent UC Riverside team last year. 11 and 4.5, 5, call it whatever. Again, shooting not great. I still see him as a guy who can play 12 to 15 minutes a game, at least for this GCU team. That's him not massively improving some shooting. I think he could come and contribute, do some things. Again, hey, can you post up 2 to 3 times a game, go give you the ball? If you get a smaller guy switched onto you, or they try to put a smaller defender onto you. Can you be a disruptor on the defensive end? Can you come in and rebound? Can you come in, you know, Wilhelm Breidenbach comes in and you need kind of some more length and some more rebounding around him because he wants to stretch the floor and he can bring that unique thing to the table. Kaleb Smith's the perfect guy to play off that. So again, he doesn't fit great alongside Nana. You know, GCU's going to need to bring in some shooting, have some guys step up. Maybe Kaleb can do that, but they're going to have to bring in some shooting. But this is a good fit for me. And a 6'8" guy, 210 pounds, strong, long arms, you know, a guy who has all the traits to be a great defender. I don't know. I'm not going to nitpick him too hard. You've got to fill 15 spots on these rosters, and you've got to develop, and you've got to mix the drink. And so to me, in my opinion, this is a great pickup for the Lopes. We can continue to debate it in the chat. But again, GCU brings in another portal guy in Kaleb Smith out of UC Riverside and adds to the roster. GCU now with 10 scholarships taken, 5 more available spots on this team as they try to get to that 15 scholarship number. So that's it for now, guys. Hopefully some more commitments here soon, but cheers.